This is Lucas Ross Sports. Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Washington Huskies are up next. I'll give my thoughts on this team, give you my official prediction for this team, and preview their schedule, and I will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Washington team. Recap of 2021 for this Washington team. They went 4-8 overall. It was not a good season last year. I was really expecting Washington to be better. People were really high on this team last year. They had them going to the Pac-12 championship as well. I think they'll be better this year. Let's get to the offense and defensive rankings. 108th on offense last year. The offense just really struggled last year. They were really young, and I think they'll be better this year, though. Defensively, though, they were 37th in the country. I think this is a top 30 defense this year, perhaps, in the Pac-12. Also, I think a top, Pac-12 defense in that category. Let's take a look at the points per game and opponents per game now. 21.5 points on the offensive side of the ball, and then 22.7 points given up on the defensive side of the ball. So that offense has a lot to improve this year. I think it comes down to that offense. My thoughts on this team is I think they'll be better. I just think it comes down to that offense for Washington. Defensively, they're going to bring really good production back this year. The offense should be really good, though, and I think that's the difference for Washington this upcoming season. Let's get to the schedule now and go game by game. And then you kick off the season against Kent State here on September 3rd. Then Portland State on September 10th. Those are two easy wins there. They shouldn't really have any problems in both of those games. I know last year Washington lost to Montana State. That was a huge loss there, but I think they should be able to win both of these games. I think Kent State will be some sort of a challenge, but I think Portland State is easy there. I think these are two easy wins, though, for Washington to open up the season. I got them starting out 2-0. Michigan State here on September 17th. Big game here out of the Big Ten Conference. I think these two teams are pretty even in terms of production percentage coming back this year. Michigan State, though, I think is better, but with it being on a 50-50 game and also being a home game, I like Washington in this game. I think Washington does pull off an upset here if it was a top 10, team of Michigan State. I'm going to go with the Huskies, though. I think they do pull off an upset here at home against Michigan State. It's one of those 50-50 type games, and I'm going to go with home field advantage, and I got Washington winning that game. Stanford coming up next year on September 24th. This is a big game here out of the Pac-12. I think these two teams are pretty even, but, Stanford is a more dangerous team. They have a lot of production coming back this year. It's a pretty even game, but I think Stanford is clearly a touchdown favorite just by an inch. And I'm going to say that Stanford does defeat Washington here at home. It's a tough loss there for Washington to, for them to, lose that game as well. So I got Washington losing their first game of the season. They play UCLA here on the road on September 30th. This is going to be another interesting matchup. UCLA is a team that, has the easiest schedule in all college football. Washington, this is a tough place to play after a loss to Stanford. And with it being a 50-50 game, I think both of these teams are pretty even. I would call it a 50-50 game probably, but I like UCLA in this game. I think they'll pull off an upset here, and I think Washington does lose two straight there. So that's two tough losses back-to-back. Two tough back-to-back games there with Washington, Stanford, and then UCLA. So got that on the road, so that's really tough there. And they are 3-2 now heading into the month of October. They get a bye week before playing Arizona State here on the road. I think people are really sleeping on this Arizona State team a little bit. I think they are going to be really good a little bit this year. Not saying they're going to be, the Pac-12 champions or anything like that. But I think Washington, after two losses in a row, they'll gain some confidence from the bye week. And I think they do go on the road and defeat Arizona State here. So I got Washington winning that game on the road at Arizona State. Play Arizona here at home on October 15th. So you got a good break there for a game like this. And I think Washington is favored by double digits in this game. I think they should be able to beat Arizona by maybe a couple scores or something like that. I think Washington does defeat Arizona here at home. Play Cal here on October the 22nd. Cal lost a lot of production from last year. I think this is going to be a young team this year. They're going to have a lot of question marks, and I think Washington should go on the road and defeat Cal here on October 22nd. And I got Washington improving to 6-2. They head to the month of November now. They get a bye week before playing this game at home against Oregon State. So this one is another interesting matchup. I think it's some sort of trap game maybe for Washington, but Maybe Washington is the favorite by at least a touchdown, but I think both of these teams are pretty even. Oregon State has a lot of production coming back this year. I think both of these teams are pretty even in terms of production. But I think Washington with home field advantage and also a 50-50 matchup, a coin type game, I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Washington to defeat Oregon State. So I got them winning here at home and improving to 7-2. Next game on the road at Oregon. This is perhaps the toughest game of the season for Washington here on the road. Oregon's going to be a different team this year. They bring Bo Nix over here at Oregon from Auburn. I think Oregon is going to be really good this year. They're going to be really well motivated, but not quite as good as the top teams in the Pac-12. Washington, I think it's a first half type game, but I think Oregon does pull away. It's a 50-50 matchup. I think it is a 50-50 game, but I like Oregon in this game, and I think they do defeat Washington here at home. Both of these teams are pretty even, but I think Oregon, the home field advantage gets it done, and I think Washington does lose their third game here to Oregon. Colorado coming up next year on November 19th. Should be an easy win here for Washington. Not really high on this Colorado team. I don't think they're going to be really making any noise this year, and I think Washington does defeat Colorado to improve to 8-3. And there's the final game on the road at Washington State. Rival game here. It's a back-and-forth contest, I think, in this game. Yes, I say back and forth because it's not going to be an easy game. With it being a rival game, it's going to go back and forth. Washington State's going to be really young this year. They're going to have a new coaching staff, young team. But the question is, can they hang around with Washington? I think they will. But, second half, I think Washington does pull away in this game. And I think Washington does defeat Washington State here on the road. So I got the Huskies winning that one over Washington State. And I got Washington finishing 9-3 in 2022. I think this is a good record for Washington. Stanford is a potential win. I could see this team going 10-2, maybe this year, maybe 10-2, maybe 11-1, perhaps, or something like that. But I think 8-4 is possible as well. I like Washington at 9-3. That is my record for them. That concludes my prediction for Washington. And we'll continue to do more football predictions until tomorrow. Stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.